Hello, and welcome to another scene set in Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. As this scene is set somewhere on the set, the player should really memorize where everything on the set actually is, but he hasn't. So this will take place, presumably there is a cabin somewhere. There are several on set. Jacob has commandeered one. For the purposes of being a substitute salt porch, as the actual salt porch is not particularly tolerant of lettuce. So he has stolen one for himself and brought tea and coffee and other wonderful refreshments to while away the day with his new best friend, 10 Point. As Jacob just sits, having called 10 Point over at some point. Presumably she doesn't have a phone, so he'd have to contact her literally physically.
Well, that or they could have an established time at this point, if you'd like to say that.
That is also rational and something I should have considered. I agree. That is a thing now.
Yes, it is tea time. It is just that time of day.
Man, Jacob has like several tea times. I just realized this. It's actually a thing. This is legitimately a thing. He actually has several tea times. So yeah, this is definitely another one of those tea times. And he's commandeered a little cabin for y'all, and yeah, has is just pouring tea, and it's waiting for 10 Point to arrive.
And she will do so in a timely fashion. She may not have a watch, but she is fairly good at keeping an eye on what time of day it is via the sun, via the daily activities of the people in the park. And he will certainly hear her coming, as she is still in the process of removing her bells. She's actually walking up with her head tilted a bit so that she can more readily reach one of the pairs or one of the sets that's bound about her antlers, and she is plucking at the thongs that hold it up, loosening the knots, and finally pulling down the last set and tucking them into her bag as she walks up, offering a, regardless of how he may think it's silly, she will at the very least insist on taking a knee briefly. Good afternoon, Raya.
Good afternoon, 10 Point. Do you like some tea?
And as presumably this has happened many, many times to the point of becoming rote, she will go ahead and loft back up off the knee, knowing that that is what he expects, and goes ahead and comes up onto the porch readily enough, having grown comfortable with sitting alongside a higher ranked Guru. So she'll come on up and give up on trying to go for the pot herself, again, due to trial and error on numerous previous days, and go ahead and take herself one of the seats and say, yes, that would be lovely.
He will pour you some tea. What tea shall it be today? I wonder. We'll say black tea.
Good stable tea.
Has a bold flavor to it as you taste it.
Oh, and she is quite all right with that. If the various accoutrements are out, though, she will probably sully it thoroughly with sugar and cream, because it's frickin' delicious that way.
Damn, yeah, it is. Jacob has just the sugar, though.
He will have noted long since that she always is very entertained by being able to have a proper cup of tea and mix it however she likes and enjoy it that way. It seems like a guilty pleasure almost.
So, How have days been treating you recently?
My beta was perhaps a bit out of sorts yesterday, Raya, but today has been very good, very eventful. I've finished learning one of the rites for an upcoming celebration, and I have hopefully put into play an exchange that will please my beta.
Well, interesting. What rite in particular?
The rite of Beltane.
Jacob thinks on this. I don't think I've heard of that one before.
It looms ever closer. The rite of Beltane, she'll say as Katie double checks, it comes at the end of this month and the beginning of the next. And it is a symbolic dousing and relighting of the fires. And then a revel. It's one of the, more lively celebrations back home. Many young kin in Guru are sewn on Beltane.
Ah. Interesting.
Myself was sewn during Beltane revels.
Jacob nods at this. There's a short silence of awkwardness as he tries to process this brand new information.
She doesn't seem especially put off by the information. She just sips at her tea idly.
I see. Interesting.
But all the same, it is a fine holiday and one of the happier ones.
I don't think I've taken part in a proper Garu holiday yet.
Not once?
He rests his hand against his temple and then just narrows his eyes towards the ceiling because the cabin's covered by an extended roof extension. No, don't think so.
No Beltane, no Great Hunt, no Samhain.
Samhain. My packmate told me that was a Fae holiday.
Samhain is also a traditional Celtic holiday and a Fianna holiday. I mean, of course, it's overshadowed as Halloween is the same evening, but it is when our calendar begins and ends.
Halloween. He kind of drifts off for a moment. I don't think I was part of Samhain. I think it might have passed me by. At least
That's a shame. It is the time when the year ends, begins, the gauntlet grows thinner. It is one of the times that we use the Feast for the Dead, so that our ancestors who have passed beyond can eat with us.
That's interesting. The gauntlet fins, huh? That would explain a lot. Sorry, I'm drifting off a little bit. I wasn't exactly visited. Well, Halloween was interesting last year, shall we say. There was a lot going on. It wasn't our ancestors that showed up, funny enough.
And what did?
There's a moment of silence. You kind of see his eyes kind of twitch. He looks towards the ground and actually genuinely tries to figure out what the hell he's about to say.
And she won't put the pressure on him by like staring or anything like that. She will just keep her eyes kind of placidly on her teacup. Occasionally enjoy a sip, and even though he has assured her many times that she is perfectly allowed to be there, still gets caught now and again kind of glancing around to see if anyone's walking past, to cast judgment on someone who would take tea with a metis.
Ghosts, I think. This was back when I was a cub. It was a while ago.
You were a cub last Halloween?
Was going out on town with some friends of mine. Unfortunately, many of us are no longer with us. But yeah, we were just going out and get something to eat. And then ghosts of humans killed by the veil showed up.
Wow. I hope you had Theurges with you then.
We had one that was still functional. The one that was the highest in station was possessed, I think, by one of them.
She makes like a small terse frown. Not a good sign. Not when a Theurge loses control of themselves. Particularly to a spirit.
You couldn't get out of the building, and anyone who tried to sidestep was possessed.
There must have been many of them on the other side then.
That was the implication.
Hmm.
One second. Only one of them, 2, 3 showed up in front of us to talk. It gave us the option of either never killing a human again, or we had to kill the bartender right then and there.
And how did you resolve that? Because one cannot make vows that would risk the veil.
There was a lot of back and forth between Fierge and this spirit. Obviously, if it was possible to uphold that deal, would have made it, but sooner or later we wouldn't be able to. So, Fidge, and she was called King, by the way, pointed that out, that we can try and make a different deal that would help prevent the loss of life, but we can't guarantee an absolute. That's not something we can do. Just not in a position to do that. It's not really a matter of not wanting to do that, but can't do it. Literally. Even if we could, eventually one of us would lose our temper and do something stupid. Can't control the entire nation because it was asking that it got negotiated down. No, it got negotiated down to you as an individual never kill a human again for being a veil risk or something. But that's as far as it went. So eventually, bartender was put to rest. There must have been thousands, if not millions, of those ghosts. Billions? I don't know. It was like, if we're going to talk about every human killed across the course of history, I can't even imagine how many there must be.
Well, certainly more than there are spirits of dead Guru. Most of us are forced to, at the very least, kill several before we die. Whether it is to preserve the veil or to fight the worm tainted, we are the teeth and claws of Gaia. It is what we do.
Ain't the experience no less awful though? He said it didn't make the experience any less mournful though. I don't understand why they would want to have someone else killed. I guess it validates them and that satisfies them.
She's left heaving a slight shrug. They probably, if they considered it an alternative, they probably thought that it would hurt you just as much or more so than making the promise so that you would do as they wished. But one human life is not that valuable, I'm afraid. I apologize if I'm crass. I have had precious little experience with humankind. Kind of gestures broadly up above her head.
Yeah. It's understandable, kind of hard to be out in the open with your condition.
I have met kin, and I have hoped that perhaps during one of the celebrations, because back home there are more than just Halloween where there's enthusiastic costuming and makeup and revelry. But perhaps while I am here, something of the sort will happen and I will have a chance to walk out among humankind and see what they are like.
That'd be interesting. I've done a lot of. I know. I guess I've done a lot of thinking about humans ever since I became a gyro. Very hard to categorize them. Then again, I guess I wouldn't appreciate being categorized if I were to have never changed.
Even then, you would have been kin, right? whether you knew it or not.
It's strange. The difference between kin and the rest of the human race is remarkably thin. It kind of makes me wonder how we got to this point where we became so different.
The bloodlines, the interbreeding. Some of the strength stays in those who do not change. Some small fraction of Gaia's blessing touches them too.
Makes you wonder what the fate of the unblessed is. Strangely enough, I actually have several human friends that, well, it's what my rage still associate with me.
That must be pleasant.
It is. I'm just. I suppose it presents me with some connections that not a lot of people have, specifically because of their rage.
Very likely so, Raya. The Hamids have the humans to walk among, the Lupas have the wolves. And it seems to bring either one some peace to be among the things they once were, or believed they once were at times.
Just got me thinking, that was all. That was probably. Yeah, Halloween was probably worse than my first change. Probably my hardest moment as a cub, to be honest.
I find it strange, in the course of less than half a year, you have risen to Cleothantafostern. You are very upwardly mobile, Raya.
I hope I can maintain the pace. I know some people spent a lot longer than I in their respective ranks, if that's the appropriate word for it. I'm not sure if it's necessarily because things are different here, or dare I say I particularly talented in some areas.
And she'll smile faintly at her tea. Funny. I was only risen to the rank of Cleoth very recently. And this said, she is in her late 20s.
Well, I definitely think certain biases definitely played a factor there.
The different tribes have their ways. The different septs have their ways. Some rise faster than others. The end of some more is expected.
There's a bit of a lopsided smile that comes out of Jacob. I'm concerned you may be a little too fair.
It is Simply the way things are. A metis must do 3 times the work of a guru because a metis gains 1/3 of the recognition. It is simply how we live. It's nothing to be angry at. It is nothing to rail against because we are 1/3 as good. I must be polite even to the kinfolk because their ties to the guru are truer and have greater use than mine.
Well, if nothing else, when you attain your rank, then you can be certain that you earned it.
There is that, Raya.
But I certainly wouldn't say you have less value.
And it is kind of you to believe it. But in the end, the most I can provide is enough impact to the nation to make up for the 2 lives I've claimed already, and if I am lucky, impact of my own before I become an ancestor.
I won't go out of my way to argue with you on every point.
Sorry, what was that?
I won't go out of my way to argue with you on every point. I'll just say I think you'll do fine.
And she's still smiling faintly. Something that she only seems to do during these little tea times, really. There's a little bit of ease there. Oh, you could argue the points, Raya. And of course I would have to nod, but I know my place. I know what I have done by being born, and I know what I must do before I die in order to even the balance.
Interesting. It sounds so remarkably straightforward.
It is perhaps strange here, Raya, but it is simply the truth. The Bonars are kinder to their metis because every guru to them is another guru. But outside of a Bonar set, things change.
What about Chowder Gaia?
I don't know very much about the children of Gaia. I know that they are seen as kind, and I know that they are where many medits are taken because we are unwanted. But I cannot speak for how they are treated.
Perhaps it's my perception then. All the Chowder Gaia I met have always had a very favourable view of Metis.
I can assure you that the one I have met certainly does. And she kind of firms her lips for a second there. Like, as if it's frustrating, almost. He has decided to train me in more traditional modes of combat.
Which one are we talking about?
Are there more than one?
You're talking about William, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He and I share a lot of views, I think, but he has a tendency to push a little hard sometimes.
I did get that impression. I do not look forward to the day that he meets my pack proper.
Oh no. I may have to have a talk about him in advance, just so he knows what to expect. So
I'm more
irons.
fearful that in a way he does, and he intends to rub them the wrong way.
Yeah, that's William. I don't think you're going to be able to stop him there. That's just him. I do think we can avoid any significant physical confrontation, though.
Oh, he is not the one they will confront.
No, I definitely would consider that scapegoating. I'll be honest.
You consider that what?
Scapegoating.
If my meeting him has brought about this inconvenience? If I was unable to impress upon him the importance of this belief, whether or not he shares it, then it falls on me.
I understand, but his actions are his choices. Sorry.
Well, this may be true, but perhaps knowing the consequences of his actions will prevent him from repeating them, Raya.
He has shown a willingness to learn. So, could be impressed on him. Although, well, I can't blame him for his stubbornness because I am also stubborn, and it's important. I had a discussion with William back in the Amazon at one point regarding the issue of Metis. William decided to take a moment to Beaver Ragabash. He kind of frowns a little bit as if he finds that entertaining in some way. And he confronted Talate Sheen, had her submit to the most extreme point of submission, and then basically kick dirt on her. That annoyed me. That was absolutely fucking furious. And well, he said, "Well, of course I can do that. It's not a breach of litany. Doesn't matter."
A wise Metis submits fully from the get-go, Raya, to prevent such things. Perhaps to you it was a display, but to me that is the consequences of not properly submitting to true Guru.
No. I was like, well, no, it absolutely matters. And actually drew quite a crowd. He said, yeah, you're and well, he argued that, well, no, of course I can't do this. It doesn't necessarily make it right. But yeah, I can do that. Then someone came up and said, well, I was ranking first in the station, and he was a new tenor, so he's like, the litany was perhaps written with not necessarily all present, but it's not a breach. There's nothing wrong with this. The crowd agreed. He's like, yeah, the law's broke. I'm acting within the law, and the law does not function properly. And then after that, we had a talk because I had been frustrated because I thought things weren't they haven't been working for a while. A long time, a very long time. But then he wrote the point that, well, actually, it probably has been working for a long time. But 90% of deforestation has happened in what, the last 10, 20 years, 30? The Industrial Revolution only happened, what, a century and a half ago? Two? Not particularly long periods of time where there have been significant periods of change that have benefited the worm, where society and our enemy has adapted, and that while things may have been working before, perhaps the reason there's a problem now is because it's only just started to run into a problem.
If I may, Raya, perhaps the problem is not in the laws themselves, but rather in that in these more recent generations, they have questioned the laws instead of following them. A house divided cannot stand, and a nation divided cannot rout the worm. And so while the tribes and their members argue, the worm grows stronger.
That's true. There is one point I'd contest, though. I would not necessarily say the House has ever been united, from what I understand of our history. I met a science strider called Raz Fire in Afro. He was one of the battle masters in the Amazon. He's a reformist, and from what I can tell, a bit of an anti-theist regarding some of the more human religious faiths. Obviously, as Gaia as an entity as we know it invalidates them, at least to some extent or another. And he decided to show us something. Because his old name used to be called Remembers of the Lost, and that's because he remembered lost lives, but not Guru lives. He took us back to the colonial age when the Western Guru came over from Europe and first settled in America, and showed us how they destroyed, completely wiped out a changing breed, rendered them extinct. For no reason other than a misunderstanding. And I know that because I actually worked with those creatures in the memory to combat the worm.
The nation has made mistakes, Raya. We know the histories.
I was really happy when I met William and I was about to issue my punishment, and then I almost felt the need to not issue it in the first place because he was so willing to learn from his mistake that it almost rendered it a moot point. Now I still did it anyway. Because it's still a two-step process and there still has to be consequences. But the willingness to learn from someone's mistakes is something I find so rare here.
I find that when one fails to learn, the punishments only become more creative and more personal. I feel that Had he remained belligerent to the points being made, by the time they found a way to make him listen, it would have been very unpleasant.
He did his fair share of rule breaking while he was a cub. Granted, cubs are expected to do that. It's half a point. It's your time to make mistakes. But I was so relieved. Because it's something I've come across maybe one time before that. Not just as in issuing punishments, just being a Garu. I've only ever seen one other person. And that person was Frostfire, so I'm born a little bit cynical within a nation. Granted, my belief systems tend to lie outside of the norm, is the correct word. Not necessarily incompatible. But it's different. And I definitely know that's turned some heads. It definitely turned heads in the Amazon. I think one of the primary issues facing the nation right now is which direction it wants to go in. Because it's had a fairly clear-cut path until now.
Perhaps now that we have a younger and more stable king on the silver throne, these things will become clearer.
I never knew Gerard extremely well. But I had dealt with him several times. And he was actually the person that introduced me into the nation initially, when I first changed. I do absolutely put my full faith in him to do the right thing.
A good sign, then. Granted, a king does not a nation make, but it's certainly a nice start. It is.
I just hope I'm not frustrating you in the same way that William does.
How's that?
Someone pushes too hard, or they push their views too hard on someone, they become condescending.
I would not say he is quite condescending. Not yet. But no. You don't bully me into seeing things from your perspective or in doing the sort of things that you believe I should. You invite me to join you. And you reassure me when I have my doubts.
Not if I'm able to do that.
You have provided me with a very nice reprieve from normalcy.
In human society, Saturday and Sunday are weekends. You get those days off. He said that Saturdays and Sundays in human society are days off, and he might be adapting human holidays a little bit. Everyone needs a break. The worst way to work someone is to the bone.
I have only ever appreciated the weekends and that it means there are more kin about, Raya.
Well, at least you can appreciate these breaks. Unfortunately, in the nation, we don't get weekends. It does make it easier for me to go out and about, though. Did you know that there's a new Den Lover on set?
What? No.
My Alpha tells rich as gold.
Has taken the role of Den Mother?
Hmm.
Then I hope her patience is very keen, Raya.
Oh, one can pray. There is a new Philodox cub from what I hear.
Yes, I was present when we went to fetch him.
That wouldn't happen to be the smashed up apartment on the news, right?
Smashed up apartment?
Yeah, that was on the news about something the police had never really witnessed before. Something very bizarre to them. The means of destruction was unconventional.
Are you sure you're not getting the two mixed up?
I don't know. Jacob's just kind of winging it. He doesn't know.
It was not an apartment, Raya, but the form of protecting the veil was very creative.
Okay. Just thought I'd check, just to make sure.
We decided, well, my beta decided to take an unconventional but very mundane route. As opposed to the fires that I hear are very common in New York.
That is a habit this app has to break out of. There's only so many arsons that can go unsolved.
I suppose.
And eventually people are going to catch on. I mean, there was even some random person that just walked up to me the other day. Might have been a kin, but I'm pretty sure she did something that was not normal, but I couldn't make out what it was. Might have been a mage.
Oh?
I'm not certain.
And what happened?
Nothing. We just had coffee. It was very pleasant, actually. It's possible she might have just been a particularly strong-willed human. I don't know yet. I'm meeting with her again just to check that, and if she is just a normal human, then, well, there's no real issue.
Err on the side of caution, Raya. Or have your pack near in the Umbra.
When people walk up to someone like us for no apparent reason, it's a point of concern.
Yes.
I certainly don't trust the Magi from what I hear. They tend to defy categorization, like most humans. Some appear very Gaian, others are the complete opposite. But I haven't met any yet, so I'm withholding judgment.
I hope that if you are meeting her again, you are doing it in a setting you can control.
I haven't. I did actually attempt to sense the worm, but there didn't appear to be any on her whatsoever. So
I just don't want you to be led into a trap, Raya. At least a public venue or a third-party venue means that nothing goes awry as soon as you step through the door.
no public venue. I should be okay. It is something that puzzles me. I've never encountered a situation as bizarre as that.
She'll kind of press her lips together and finally kind of lean over and, against her better judgment, will kind of lightly reach out to touch his arm or shoulder, whatever's close. At least do me the favor, Raya, of having your pack nearby in the Umbra, so that if anything goes awry, they can step through and aid you.
I'll do that. Promise.
And she gives a slight nod and eases up a little, and shifts back into her seat. There's many a Guru life lost to a seemingly innocent face, Raya.
It would be nice if it was just a friendly face for once.
And it may be, but it is best to be cautious. I've heard that there are many spirals in this city and many other forms of supernatural creature.
Yeah, there's a lot of them here for some reason. At least from what I hear, I haven't met many of them. I tried to stay out of their way. I ran into a Fae, I think, at one point.
I have heard similarly, and it is a large city and many bodies. It's very easy for almost anything to hide in the masses.
The one time where rage is a disadvantage, you stick out like a sore thumb in a crowd.
It depends. Some of the people here are very weathered, from what I understand. Then there are others who throw off the same sort of air of danger, people who have led hard lives and are avoided by other humans. So it is not so strange to be avoided.
I just tend to play it off as I'm a police officer and I happen to be armed, so naturally I'll be scary to people. I guess it helps to have an excuse.
True.
I'm supposed to remove ourselves from my tangent, however. The whole issue of a den mother does leave the prospect of a den father, interestingly.
With only one cub?
At least that's what my Arthur was discussing with me.
Perhaps if there were more, I would understand, Raya. But with only one cub, there is little need two den parents.
I did bring that up, although she seems to believe it would be somewhat easy with two den parents. I suppose it's a case of many hands make light work, or having two different auspices and tribes might bring about a new perspective that should help.
It is not uncommon for the den parents to appoint mentors and teachers of the appropriate auspice. But it does not necessarily require being a den parent. If this new cub is a philodox and he comes along in his general teachings, then I would not be surprised if your alpha asked you to coach him on the litany and the understanding of it and reinforcement of it. It is not so unusual.
I figured.
Otherwise, one might argue that there should be a den parent of each auspice, and that is far too much.
Hmm.
The single den parent should be able to handle several cubs.
Yeah, I think it should be fine either way. Just got me considering who would actually make a good den father on set. Because as much as I respect William's beliefs,
Teaching such things to cubs would be disastrous as soon as they left this sept.
it's the balance of idealism and pragmatism that I think he lacks, and he's a bit too forceful.
I assure you, Raya, that were he to go to the sept of the Tri-Spiral or any of the more traditional septs, he would risk his own life, and teaching the same to cubs would risk theirs in turn.
I think it was a mixed response to that, as to he's not sure that's like understandable or just sounds absolutely horrible from, from the way it was said.
I do not merely mean the treatment of Metis, Raya. I mean the eagerness to blatantly question what tradition accepts. Sooner or later, the rage bubbles up. Not all are tolerant.
I've noticed that one is lucky if ever to acquire a equal relationship, even with within their own pack. Tends to be the best we can hope for is Detante.
I cannot say that I don't find their pack somewhat distressing. I hope they don't intend to travel.
I don't know. I think they'll be okay.
If they walk into any traditional sept with a Metis serving as beta, they will perhaps not appreciate what follows.
Suppose it depends on how Talatahine is feeling that day. She might be able to convince them, or she might crumple like a paper bag. It's kind of hard to tell with her sometimes.
And
Not that
she
I
again
mean,
kind of just tensely purses her lips throughout that bit.
not that I mean to insult her in any fashion, but because actually, well, she's a close friend of mine. I respect her a great deal. Just like anyone else, she has her flaws.
Right, even I must question a guru who is willing to enter a pack where they are lower in position than a metis, particularly one of the same rank.
I suppose it depends. A more meritocratic pack, it would make logical sense of then. In a hard meritocracy, breed matters much less. I believe it's something that Fenrir focus on, although from a more martial perspective.
Indeed.
So
Still,
oh,
she will have to prove that she deserves her rank, her position in the pack, or the pack as a whole will be treated poorly for tolerating it.
I think she'll find a means to.
We can certainly hope, Raya.
It'll take her a bit of time, I think, but she's shown a very interesting method of adaptation, or rather, one that's a bit all too common. But perhaps I'm reading too much into her.
Perhaps. I have met her all of twice. She seems to have a passable understanding of what it means to be what she is. Unlike some I could name.
All right, that one. I mean, I wouldn't even bring up the fact that he's a menace. I'd just say he's just stupid.
True, Raya, but it still reflects on us. And it means that we must work all the harder to push him from our ranks.
That was my concern.
Were we to accept him even after what he has done, it would reflect on all of us.
He's going to be working his way back into this entire set, let alone into your ranks. I'll tell you that much. I'm still trying to process how he thought 90% of what he did was in any way reasonable or a good idea. But I've already been there a million times.
Well, I can assure you, Raya, if a similar mistake is made in the future, I intend to ask the permission of the Philodox to perform the threefold death.
The threefold death.
Yes, Raya. It is a tradition among Theurges of the Fianna. It is not a kind way to go, but it is certainly a way to repay one's debts to the spirits. It is, of course, only used under extreme circumstances, but the first time may have been a mistake. The second time will not be.
We'll see how he does. Or at least through the first part of the punishment, at least.
Do you know when, Raya?
Soon.
The sooner the better.
It's just arranging a point for everyone to be, well, all the relevant figures to be together. I don't intend to turn this into a public spectacle.
Well, the end of the month looms near. There will be a moot. It seems that it would be an appropriate time, as the spirits of the sept are called, to a moot. So that when we all give our gnosis, we reinvigorate the cairn and the spirits that guard it.
There is a kind of a long silence. It's not necessarily an awkward one. It's just Jacob kind of taking everything in and sipping his tea.
For what it's worth, she doesn't seem to be, nervously suggesting so much as treating this as though it's the obvious answer.
Oh yeah, no. Jacob doesn't seem too fazed by this at all. He's like, yeah, makes sense kind of look. I do. Just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
All good. She'll, meantime, pull out have at some point actually pulled out what look very much like prayer beads. Not in the very traditional Catholic sense. They're all carved wood and bone, and the motif is kind of natural, almost leafy, but she has pulled them out, and once she's finished her tea and set the cup aside, has just been fiddling with those. Ryan, you seem to have understood, perhaps better than most, what it means to understand one's traditions, even if they are not their own. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't necessarily like a lot of what I have to do, but I understand a lot of it has to happen.
Do you think that perhaps someday, maybe not soon, but someday, you might be willing to take my confessions as my beta does?
Jacob kind of tilts his head. Confessions?
Yes, Raya. Every misstep is, well, must be balanced. And so I confess my missteps. I am punished for them appropriately, and thus have a clean slate again to meet the next day.
I see. I may, well, you know me, I may have different approaches to resolving them.
Just keep in mind, Raya, that these are not punishments that I am cowing from. These are what must be done so that I Do not grow soft, that I do not grow careless, and that I do not let the worm into my heart.
Jacob leans back in his chair a little bit.
She's staring pretty keenly at the prayer beads. It seems pretty clear that she understands that it's a rough subject. Like I said, not now. Maybe with time.
The last thing I want to do is make a promise I can't keep. So I can promise I can consider it and we'll think it over.
And that is all I can ask, Raya.
Because I know what punishment involved generally entails.
It is not so bad when the sins are known and confessed. If I were to hide them and my beta were to find out, they are much harsher.
I would say, because as you said, not now. After it's been fought through, I could say I can see what I can do. I can't say would they be the same or
So long
necessarily what you're
as
expecting.
the punishments balance the crime, Raya. These are not acts of cruelty.
Jacob thinks long and hard on that. Oh, see, stop breaking my heart. Stop it. Stop. Stop it. Why you do this?
Because listening to Jacob's little heartbreak fuels me.
This is so heartbreaking. Stop. Stop it. Well, you'll be hugging him, not hurting him.
I don't know. Maybe if she knows that you understand, she won't feel as bad about, like, giving you hugs. I'm just saying.
I prefer hugs. I'll think about it.
She'll not.
Get back to you with an answer when I come to a decision, I guess.
Of course. Then she'll finally rouse from her chair and then offer him a bit of a bow. I think that I have taken enough of your time and put you in enough of an awkward spot. I should go back about my duties, Raya.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how often that happens here.
It is true, but to inconvenience you too much at one time would be to take advantage of your kindness. There are precious few who are prepared to take the responsibility of a metis. I understand that it is asking a lot.
Responsibility is my job. Don't ask too much of me.
This is true, but there is a whole sept that needs your care. I will be careful not to take too much of it for myself.
I appreciate that you care to that much. Take care out there. You actually put a hand on her shoulder and jostle her lightly as if to say, take care out there, damn it.
And she again accepts the touch without her usual kind of shock and awe. She's grown accustomed to Jacob, at least this much. And she nods agreement. Besides, it is time to play. The moon rises. Twilight's almost ended.
Hmm.
And so she'll go ahead and start casually traipsing down the steps. And with the prayer beads still in one hand, she'll begin fiddling with her swag, flicking it open, pulling out the violin case as she walks. Goes to find a place to play. And actually, just for artistic flourish, we'll say that there's probably an open area front the cabins. Not a yard per se, but something along those lines. And she'll find a nice place there, still within easy earshot of Jacob's cabin, since she knows he enjoys the playing, and she'll settle there and tune a little bit and begin to play her Twilight song.
And I think with that, as Jacob listens to her play, we can end the scene there. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you next time.